Welcome back to the Ohio MMA podcast. I am your host, David McKinney. Joining me on today's show, undefeated amateur MMA fighter AJ Jones. What's up, AJ?
Hey, I'm doing good, David. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. So we were just talking before we came on. You are a couple days out from your return to the cage at Cage Thunder Next Gen Fight Series 3, going up to the Akron area to take on Jeremy Riley, and you're going up to heavyweight for this one. So no weight cut, no starving yourself to get down to 205. But what's the final couple days of camp and prep look like?
Yeah, man. I'm super excited just to kind of go up to Akron. Go in the heavyweight division this time, and got a tough opponent. So I'm just trying to right now. I'm just doing a lot of kind of little relaxing, a little bit of runs, just kind of fine tuning little things. Nothing too crazy, too stressful on the body. Just trying to keep it nice and smooth. So by the time we get into the ring, that we're ready, man, or get into the cage, man, we're ready and feeling good. So just kind of more so resting ish, cardio ish type days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you said, get into the ring. That's maybe a little bit of a Freudian slip. You that was one of the things I was going to ask you about before you transitioned over to MMA. You had a pretty extensive Muay Thai and kickboxing. I think you were had like a dozen, Muay Thai kickboxing fights as an amateur. What was that like, man? I know Muay Thai and kickboxing are starting to get a little bit of traction here in the U.S. and kind of the Midwest area. I follow MMA pretty closely, but on Tapology, I'm seeing more and more Muay Thai and kickboxing fights pop up. But what's it like, man, going on the scene? Because there's not a lot in Ohio, and I know you've had to travel a lot for that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, honestly, I started out fighting with just Muay Thai. I come from a wrestling background. I previously wrestled in high school and in college for a little bit. So when I was done, I really wanted to learn how to, strike. So Muay Thai ended up being the thing I ended up falling into. I love it, man. I think it's a great foundation and a good base for striking. I love the eight limbs, man. Just to create just being creative, being able to use all parts of your body, kind of like I feel like it really elevates you in a lot of different ways because you're keeping this open mind of like, hey, I could throw a kick here, I could throw a punch, I could throw a knee, just being able to mix it up. And I think it's really crucial. Some of these, as time goes on, guys are getting better and better. And I think having a solid foundation of striking and having that kind of background is really important. So you know, beforehand, I had about, I think it was roughly 12 to 13 Muay Thai bouts before going into MMA. And, during that time, it was a lot of fun, man. Just kind of really focusing on how to really be a strong stand up fighter.
Yeah, and kind of, you mentioned before that you had kind of the more traditional background for MMA wrestling, at least in the Ohio area. I know you were top 10 in the state a couple times, and then wrestled at Kent State. And through your first three fights, you haven't really had MMA fights, and of course, obviously not kickboxing. You haven't had to show your wrestling background so far. So, how many fights are we going to have to get into your career before we see you start to wrestle a little bit?
I mean, I'm trying to mix it in as much as I can, but given the opponents and what's happening, and I try to take every fight just kind of open, man. Whatever comes, and I try not to force things too much. So, I mean, I definitely want to show some wrestling. That's my sport. I love it. I love the slams, love the throws, good shots and stuff like that. But hopefully one of these fights, maybe even this one, we might have to throw in a little bit of wrestling just to kind of show everyone that I have those capabilities, and I do look forward to them, and I do try to open up, but you know every fight starts standing. So if we're doing well in the standing aspect for the time being, why not? Why not stick to it? So,
Yeah.
hopefully one of these we'll throw it in there at one point.
And so you're facing Jeremy Riley this weekend, who he kind of prides himself on being a very durable guy and also being never in a boring fight. And so going into that, I feel like you kind of have to like know his style a little bit and the way that he's not going to just fold quickly. Is it something where you are still, hey, I'm in there trying to get the fight finish as quickly as possible? Or are you like, man, I really want this to be kind of a back and forth battle like a lot of his fights have been? Is that something that you think about? I'm sure you prepare for it, but what's your mindset like in terms of like the type of fight you think is going to happen?
Um, man, honestly, like I just love the fact that Jeremy's he's a gamer, man. He's full of heart, and I love it. I love, he's gonna be in my face, and I'm just gonna take it as it is. I'm not. I mean, obviously, we all look for a good finish. We all look for the first round finish, but a fight's a fight, and I mean, just from what I've seen, I mean, he hits hard. He's a big guy, so I'm gonna more than likely probably take my time and how I normally do it. No need to rush things and kind of just, really set the tone and really set the pace of the fight and, make sure I'm controlling every single position.
Yeah, and one of the crazy things is so you've won your first three fights all via TKO. Well, I guess one of them was technically a submission to strikes, but two of them you've actually won with basically with leg kicks, or at least leg kicks that have been part of it. That's such a unique thing that, like, I mean, going back, maybe 8, 10 years ago, people were like, "Oh, leg kicks don't end fights," and you've proven that wrong, man. In your first three fights, what's the difference, and what's the way that you train, or is there kind of like a magic sauce that makes it so that your leg kicks are more devastating than the next guys?
I mean, just kind of piggybacking off that Muay Thai background, man, being able to kind of compete with some of those guys at the, really high level, and we're really focused in on, just striking. Man, leg kicks, once you take a couple, you starting to learn like, hey, maybe I should use these a little bit myself. So I've taken a couple, and that's where I've kind of like really learned like, hey man, these really set up other strikes, and it's a good avenue to kind of really start to break down your opponent. So my coach is always he's really big on leg kicks. I love them for myself because I think they're a great setup. I mean, as we see it in the UFC and PFL and all those other ones, they're getting mixed in there too, especially with calf kicks. So I think as the game progresses, man, I just want to try to be a little bit prepared for it, a little bit kind of making step towards um that next big level. So if I could sit there and really kind of fine and tune those little pieces, just like the leg kick, then why not, man? So I'm just taking it as it's a good setup. It's there, and if they're not going to check it nor defend, why not keep throwing them?
Yeah, and so as you mentioned, you're going back up to heavyweight on this fight, and you fought at heavyweight and light heavyweight, and your coach Josh Williams actually told me after your fight, your first MMA fight, he actually likes you a lot as an amateur heavyweight because it sometimes it's a little easier to get fights. You don't have to worry about cutting weight. What's your thought about bouncing back and forth between the two weight classes here in your amateur career?
Man, I love it. I'm just trying to stay active. Any given different kind of looks, man. Bigger guys. I mean, they're coming at me, and I love it. And I mean, they're trying to knock me out just as much as I'm trying to knock them out. So, I'm just like I said, I'm just trying to stay active. So, anything comes my way, man, I'm trying to accept it and just get in there and really show everybody that I'm trying to be the next big thing, man. I'm trying to make it to the top. So, if the more the merrier is the way I'm thinking.
Yeah, and so you train at Ronin Training Center in Columbus. I know your head MMA coach is Josh Williams, also trained under Aaron Boggs on the striking side. And Ronin is a gym that is very very well respected and has now had kind of multiple different generations come through. And I've had some of the fighters from Ronin on the podcast, and they're talking about you've got like Max and Melvin and Asher and Skylar Bray and that crew that kind of all came up together, and now they're all in their pro careers, and now you're kind of in this next wave. Is it what's it like being just a couple fights into your amateur career? I know you've been fighting for a while, so you've probably been around a little bit longer than maybe some of the guys who have one or two amateur fights. But do you kind of see yourself in that new wave of fighters coming out of Ronin?
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I'm super excited for all the new fighters coming up in Rona, including myself. I mean, we have a strong team. And I mean, all the guys you mentioned before who are in that pro league, I mean, they're phenomenal. They're great motivators. They're they're those kind of inspiration, man. We all look forward to kind of going, being in that spot one day. So, having them be in that room it creates a huge contagious environment where we're all trying to work and get better. So, man, being part of the new wave is exciting, man. And I just want to show that the guys after me and who's part of the other wave that comes right after me, I want to show them and prove to them that they can do the same thing that I'm doing. And also, I'm trying to be what they're doing. So, having that great environment in that room and at Ronin, I mean, I'm super thankful. That place is fantastic. I've learned everything from there. And I mean, I'm happy with all the coaches, Josh, Boggs. I mean, I love Melvin. I love Lance and Travis, all those other guys that are even older than me. So like, or an older the guys we have now. And being part of jiu-jitsu, some of those beasts and animals there. Like, so I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm happy for the new wave to kind of come through and be part of that.
Yeah, and you specifically called out Melvin Harris, and that was something I wanted to ask you too. I know you train pretty closely with him, and it's interesting because and again, being in Ohio, it's probably pretty easy to find guys with a wrestling background who have transitioned to MMA, but not as many guys with a striking background who have transitioned to MMA. And he's had pro Muay Thai, pro kickboxing, pro MMA. What's it like having a guy? And he's not a heavyweight, but he's a bigger guy, and he fights at 170, but what's it like having that guy who you can kind of maybe take you under his wing a little bit and kind of show you the ropes as like a guy who, maybe gravitates a little bit more toward the striking side as well?
Yeah, man. I don't have any. I have so much good things to say about Melvin. I appreciate everything. He's taught me so much, and having him in the room is like just fantastic because, him being that little bit lower than I am, it's great because he's so much quicker than I am. So like it forces me to kind of really try to get up to that kind of speed and being able to have those same reflections to kind of, slip those jabs and try to slip those kicks. And I mean, trust and believe. I probably don't get away with whatever half. He still beats me. Don't worry. But I mean, I can't thank him enough, man. And and even the other guys, like, he gives me he gives me looks and really helps me really think things through. And man, there's nothing more I can say than what I mean Melvin has done for me, man. Like that's just it. He's a great training partner, and I can't say nothing more than that.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dan Spawn is another guy too who
Oh
has
yeah.
such a unique striking style and striking for MMA and a southpaw, and also more at your weight class. I'm a big Dan Spawn fan going way back to his NAS days
For
and amateur
sure.
career, but that's got to be a guy too. And I know that he also like prides himself on bringing up that next crop and teaching people. And I took a couple of his striking classes back at the old Buckeye MMA, and I quickly decided not to do that anymore. But no, he's such a good coach and teacher, and there is that transition of like there's a difference between a guy who can fight and maybe show you things by in sparring, but then also the difference between the coach aspect who can teach you some of the different things. And yeah, I mean, I feel like no matter what, the big thing about Ronin is you guys just have so many fighters at different aspects,
Yeah,
different
man.
backgrounds at every weight class, age, experience level. It really is, what I know Luke Zachrich was trying to build, probably what 10, 12 years ago when he started the gym. But it is amazing seeing the gym now, coming up and yeah. Um, I don't want to keep you too much longer, man, but I
No,
did
you're
want to
good.
say, so I know your name is AJ, but we got to get you a real nickname, man. We got to get you.
I know,
Uh,
man. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I just, man, I've had AJ since like the third grade, and it was all from surprisingly AJ Hawk, man. The good old linebacker. I used to play
yeah,
football back in the day, and it stuck with me ever since as a kid.
I love
So
AJ
maybe
Hawk too.
if anyone's got a good name, just let me know. We might be able to stick it in there.
Yeah, I've been trying to give fighters nicknames, but I'm so bad at it. So I think I'm retiring from that. But when I do commentary, it's like, man, I did give one guy. He came to the fights wearing like pink shorts and is just a interesting guy out there. Brian Hess, he's from Pittsburgh, and his nickname is Hello Kitty. So Be careful what you wear to the cage because you will get a nickname like Hello Kitty. But um, yeah, man, I know you're a couple, like I said, a couple days out from the fight. But one thing I know that you do as well, you're starting to give back, and now you're a wrestling coach as well, for the little guys, the little
Uh-oh.
kids.
Uh-oh.
Did you lose me?
Yep, there we go. I got you back. My
Okay,
bad.
you're good. I'll fix that. But yeah, so one of the things I knew you're a coach for the little guys, the kids now at Team Miron. Tell me
Yep.
a little bit about that and the transitioning and giving back a little bit as the wrestling coaching.
Yeah, man. I've been coaching at Team Miron Wrestling probably for like 6 years, roughly, give or take. I started there. I grew up there, man. So I originally started wrestling there when I was about 13, and when I had during the summer from Kent State, I would just come down and, you know, try to stay active and help with those little guys. And man, it's probably one of my favorite things to do. Being in that room, helping give back, and really showing those guys some of the moves, and you know, that being from my background, that's how I grew up, man. That's how I learned my way, and that sport to me always has a home to me. So being able to coach those little guys is awesome. And I mean, there's beasts there, man. We always produce good
Yeah.
D1 wrestlers. I mean, if anyone knows, I mean, I could throw a couple names out there, like, Dylan Russo. He's currently at Wisconsin. Braxton Amos, he's over there with them. I mean, Nick Lee was from there, and I grew up with Nick Lee in that room. Carson Karchalava is there, so I mean, Miron Karchalava and that whole Team Miron family. I Man, they've always made a home that made that place a home for me, and that place, I plan to make that for those kids as well. And being able to just give back and show that kind of move, and hopefully they can grow into their fighting careers, but letting them and giving them the opportunity to make that extra step, man, it it makes a whole lot of fun, man. It really does.
Yeah. And so you're going up to Akron at Chaparral's. It's such a great venue. You've actually got to fight. I think you fought at the Columbus Athenaeum, which feels like an old school arena. You got to
Yes,
fight at
yes.
Express Live, which is a more modern place. And then Chaparral's. I don't know if you've been there, but it's such a great venue for MMA. It's an old bingo hall, and it's like a couple of like elevated levels.
That's
Not
cool.
like, but it's such a good. You get a good vantage point from anywhere, and it feels like an old school, like, where you would expect to see local amateur MMA. I've done a bunch of events there, and it's always a good time. And Cage Thunder puts on such a good show. So I'm excited to see it. I won't be able to make it, but I'm going to be watching it on combatsportsnow.com.
Love to
But
hear it.
I love them, man. They're so good to me, and always making sure I get the pay per view so I can watch all the fights. But anything else you want to mention, man, before the fight? Any thank you, sponsors, shout outs, anything like that?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to you for having me on the show, and shout out to Ronin, shout out to Team Miron Wrestling, and shout out to my family, my mom, and all the training partners, and shout out to my opponent. I just want to say I appreciate him taking the fight, and I look forward to us banging it out in the ring, man, or in the cage. Sorry, I did it again.
You'll eventually get it, man. Get like 15 MMA fights, and you'll know exactly what the cage is. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
man. Thank you so much. This weekend, October 5th, up in Akron, Cage Thunder Next Gen Fight Series 3. Such a great card. There's an amateur lightweight title in the main event. Jordan Tague and Devin Watkins. I'm excited for that one as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Um,
good one,
but
man. That's gonna be a real good one.
yeah, Jordan's a really good wrestler, and Devin has like knocked out everybody that he's beaten. So that's such a good like style matchup. And they
Oh,
both
I
come
agree.
from
I
really
saw
good
Jordan
gyms.
fight a couple times, man. And he's definitely a dog, man.
Yeah, he's and then Devin, like I said, Devin just knocked a guy cold with a left hook in his last fight, and
Right.
won a title over in PA, and yeah, he's a beast too. So man, that both of those guys are like they're both gonna have probably long pro careers, and they're fighting as
Oh, for
amateurs, and
sure, man. For sure.
um,
I mean, I'm excited for both of them, man. I'm staying and watching that one. So I mean, after mine, I'm definitely tuning into that one.
Yeah, yeah, you're you're gonna sell it better than I am, man. So, yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, this weekend up in Akron, get tickets if you can. I'm sure there's still a couple tickets left. But AJ, no nickname yet, Jones. Maybe your nickname will be no nickname,
No nickname,
Jones.
AJ. No nickname Jones. Tune in, everybody. Yes.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, man. You have a great rest of your day for
All
sure.
right, we'll be back next week with another episode.